Hello, my name is Itamar Gov. I am an artist living in Berlin since 2010, but I grew up in Tel Aviv, in Israel. Yeah, so Fort Danry is really, I would say, the complete and most extreme opposite of what I grew up surrounded by. So I grew up in Tel Aviv, which is a very packed city, very warm, many people around. I moved to Berlin, which is also a very packed city. Everything actually that I experienced until now was really the complete opposite of green cliffs on the North Atlantic Ocean. This, first of all, made me very excited for the opportunity to spend time in such a place, because in general, I'm much more excited about spending longer periods of time than just having like 3 days somewhere. I really prefer to understand how it is to like see the days unfold. And so first of all, the place of where it is. Second was I was very excited about this thing, which is the fort that was built and was actually never used. So also this was something that I was thinking, we're very used to going to see ruins or to museums and to places in which something happened, and now everything is very clean and there's only grass, and all the atrocities that were here in the past can only be imagined, even though everything is so clean. And I thought it's really amazing that there is a place in which there were no atrocities, but there is a fortress. There is a military camp and cannons and wooden sheds and iron chains and all these things that are, in my mind, automatically testifying some sort of a war. But to the point that this fort was actually never engaged in any kind of battle or war was already absurd enough for me to be excited about this thing without really knowing what it means or what I will actually find here. But this thing of like a fortress that was never used but is still here, and now it became a military museum, because what else would you do with a fortress that is just there with all its cannons? So this was one of the things that I was excited about. Usually when I start working on projects, I enjoy very much doing some research and identifying while going over documents and photographs and letters and things like that, identifying very small stories or a person or an object that was used or some sort of an incident or something that seems unimportant or irrelevant to the big history of a certain place, and approaching or using this kind of element, shedding light or touching vast or wide socio-political landscapes. So when I came here, I started to walk around and to read a lot and to try to understand what it is, the element that I was looking for that would be interesting to do a work on or surrounding around. At the beginning, I didn't have an idea immediately. I was very curious about the fact that everything is crumbling and is eaten by nature. I thought it was very interesting as a place, which is, it was the feeling was very strong from the beginning that there was here some sort of a human intervention, and now nature is taking over and it is claiming its territory back. So this was one of the first things I was very excited about, without really knowing what I want to do with it, except that it looks amazing. And as the days and weeks went by, I heard from many different people the idioms or sayings or references of the fairies, which for me was, I mean, something that I'm not interested in in general. It's something that I was never thinking about too much, and it's not like figures that are in my life in any way. And the first thing that caught my attention was that people are speaking about the fairies as some sort of very scary entities. So not like cute, sweet, pinky, I don't know, fireflies that are flying around with magic, but actually entities that one should be very, very scared of and should respect and should be very considerate, not to anger them. And I realized that there are many that this thing, fairies, is used when someone goes blind, so it's because of the fairies. When a child died, it's because of the fairies. If someone doesn't wake up because he angered the fairies, it's something that I heard in different moments in these weeks here. And this connected very organically for me with the state of the fort and the military camp, the base that is around it, because in my mind somehow it made sense in this context where the fairies are a serious thing and it's not like stories for children, that the fairies are somehow now claim their land back from the people who built stone fortresses on them. With this thought that was still quite vague, I started to look a bit more into the history of stories about fairies in Ireland. And I found many folk tales and short stories and poems all around the notion or the relations with the fairies. And at a certain point it became clear to me that I want to do a work that is about the revenge of the fairies and how they actually, how they take over their territory that was taken away from them. One of the things that I found in the past weeks was the existence of the fairy rings, which is something I had no idea about. And when I found it, for me, it was quite funny to read this thing. But the minute I started to mention this thing to people around, and I saw just how seriously they react to the fairy rings, so I really just realized that this is an actual thing. It's not. I want to say I was very skeptical about the whole thing, even about wanting to do something with this thing. But when I realized just how much it's part of the lives of people, or it has been part for many centuries or maybe millennia, it made complete sense for me to try to somehow enter this story and try to do something about it. So the work, which is not done yet, so I'm not really sure how it will end. But I started to prepare many hundreds of mushrooms of clay that I will scatter around the fort and the abandoned sheds around it, creating fairy rings. So in a way, it's a very strange collaboration with the fairies. Or a way to call them, to encourage them to continue with what they already started, which is to take over the space, to make sure that the process is moving forward. And let's see how it goes. The time here has been really amazing. It was really as different as I expected it to be from anything I know. And from here, I'm going to residency in Amsterdam for 3 months, so it will be again in a central European capital. So the time here has been really great, and I'm sure that, I mean, 4 weeks in the end is not so long. So many thoughts that, or like beginnings of thoughts that I had here, or moments that I experienced and wasn't maybe paying a lot of attention, or wasn't realizing just how strong they were. I am sure they will, in the next months, just come back to me, and definitely will become elements in other projects. I still don't know how, but I'm sure they will, because until now this has always been the case for me, that there is not like a straight way that I'm walking through and collect things and this is the end of the project and that's it, and now let's start something else. So I'm always taking with me things that I went through or gathered in different places, and they always somehow end up in some form or way appear in other projects. So yeah.